Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all three past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer for Kentucky Derby Prep Recap. We're going to take a look back at a wacky and weird edition of the Tampa Bay Derby. The tote board went down. There was no wagering on the race, unfortunately, but Kentucky Derby qualifying prep points are still on the line. And domestic product, Mike, he was expected to be one of the favorites, if not the outright favorite in this race. He gets a good spot in a race where there was just no pace. Keep an eye on the 5, domestic product.
Yeah, they're going to go slow early and then really fast late in this race. It's kind of run like a turf race, Dan. And domestic product, he gets the position I think they wanted him to be in here. He's sort of held up. He's in and among horses, but he's up close to a really slow pace.
And another horse getting a good trip is a horse that would have been vying for favoritism with him. That is the number 7, No More Time, who won the Sam F. Davis. He is sitting comfortably in second right now, off of domestic products, uncoupled stablemate, the stretch out sprinter, Good Money.
Yeah, he's only, a length or so ahead of the eventual winner here, Dan, but he has all the best of it in this race. He's forward. He's right on the pace. They are walking here. And when they get to around halfway through this second turn, about the 5/16 pole, they are going to start sprinting for home. It's a big advantage for No More Time.
These fractions are remarkable for a Kentucky Derby prep. 25 and 151. Grandmo the first, who ends up finishing third, and you're the number 9. He at least had to carry a little bit of ground. He's going to try to make a 3-wide bid. Now they start sprinting for home.
Yeah, pace is going to really pick up here. Now you're right. Grandmo the first did make a first run here after a 3-wide trip. He can't reach the leaders, Danny, but he is going to stay gamely through this stretch. No More Time is now going to hook up here with Good Money, the second time starter stretch. And now for Chad Brown, look at domestic product, though. Not only does he have to chase these horses down who are sprinting in front of him, but he's got to sort of force his way clear here a couple of times. If you watch the head on, you'll even see No More Time come out into him late in this race. Still going to get the job done.
It's a thrilling finish, and domestic product somehow got his head down right on the wire. 3-horse photo. Domestic product gets the 50 Kentucky Derby qualifying points for trainer Chad Brown. Let's talk about the others before we take a closer look at domestic product. No More Time I thought was very, very game. He had a very good trip, but when you saw domestic product hook him at about the 150-yard mark, he really put his head down and tried. He's a tough little guy. It looks like they're going to train up to the Derby with him. That'll be a big acid test.
Yeah, because he's just a horse who, feels like maybe he could use one more race. Then he's got to take a step forward if he's going to be really competitive with all the top 3-year-olds. I think you have to like what he's done so far. He did go to his wrong lead very late in this race, and maybe that ultimately cost him at the end. But at the end of the day, and he ran well in here with a really good trip, he had no excuse here. He had all the best of it. He had the jump on the horse that ran him down. Off of a really slow pace here, and he just couldn't quite hold on. He ran fine in here, but there's no excuse for him not to win.
Grandmo the first was stretching out in distance, was widest and carrying ground, and that's never easy when the pace is slow in front. I thought he tried really hard. He would have outrun his odds, whatever they would have been at post time. It looks like they'll take one last gasp effort to make the Kentucky Derby, run him in the Florida Derby. It'll get tougher there.
Yeah, it should be a tougher race from there. You're right. Listen, being 3 wide around the track off of a slow pace, not an ideal trip, but he took his shot at this thing around the second turn. And you can see there, he just couldn't quite get to the leaders. I appreciate the way that he stayed on gamely towards the end. To me, he just wasn't quite good enough. He needs a big forward move at some point.
Good Money finishing 4th. The good is that it was only his, I believe, second lifetime start, and he was stretching out in distance. So considering his inexperience, he hung in there well for 4th, but I'm not sure what more Arad Ortiz could have done other than carry him across the wire in front. He gave him every advantage on the lead.
Yeah, he did. He had a really good trip in this race, and I thought he did the best that he could with it, Dan. It was his second career start off of one sprint race where he actually looked really good winning, going 7 furlongs. He was stretching out for the first time. He was taking on better horses. He got beat, I don't know, a little bit less than a length, maybe a length in total. He ran pretty well in here. This horse has a really big pedigree. He did not give in readily through the stretch of this race. He is bred to get better as these distances get longer. I'll be very interested to see what Chad decides to do with him next.
When you watch the replay again, you'll see the fifth place finisher Heartened, trained by Todd Pletcher, making up some significant late ground towards the inside. I think that's saying something considering the pace was so slow and they were really moving late. I think he ran better than it looks on paper.
I can appreciate that he did hold his position through the stretch as those leaders were sprinting on home, and all he could do was chase them, and he couldn't really threaten them. The flip side of that, Dan, is he got to save a ton of ground in this race. Just sort of sat on the inside, got through. He had plenty of room down there through the stretch, and he did race on. He just didn't really have any chance to make an impact.
I don't think seventh place finisher Crazy Mason is a Kentucky Derby threat, but I think you should really view his running line with several grains of salt. He was 5 wide all the way around the track, tried to make a bid into it just as the pace quickened up and got tired. I'll forgive him for this performance.
And me too. I mean, I looked at him the exact same way. I mean, I don't know what it all means because if you go off of his prior 7 races, they don't make him a graded stakes kind of horse, but he had no chance in here.
Did you see anything else from anybody else in this race that makes you think, well, there's a sneaky horse to follow down the road, if not in a Kentucky Derby qualifying race, somewhere in a stakes race down the road?
I don't know about a stakes race, Dad, but we just talked about Crazy Mason having no chance. The horse that wound up finishing last in here, Give Me Liberty, who is still a maiden. This horse had an absolute no chance trip in this race. He got caught in traffic at the first turn. He had to take back to last, and there was no way he was going to do anything from there. His rider, for some reason, took him widest around the final turn. I don't know what that was all about, but this horse had no chance.
Let's take a closer look at Domestic Product. He only earned an 82 Buyer speed figure for the Tampa Bay Derby, but again, you have to take that number with several grains of salt. How can you get a fast figure in a race with such a slow pace?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably how you're supposed to look at it. I don't know. I like this horse. I think he's pretty much run well in all of his starts, Dan. And this is going to be, if people just go through his PPs and look at his figure for this race, they're going to say maybe they don't think he's that good. This horse did some good things in this race.
Ever since he's stretched out in distance, he's done little wrong. A maiden winner in his second lifetime start. The Remsen was a race where Dornoch was able to get to the front on a track where it seemed like that was the place to be. And maybe Domestic Product didn't care for the wet surface. In the Holy Bull, again, it was a race with no pace, and he ran on quite well to be second, finishing ahead of 2-year-old champion Fierceness. And of course, here in the Tampa Bay Derby. From a pedigree standpoint, is this a classic type pedigree? He's by Practical Joke. His dam is a half sister to a stakes winning turf sprinter. The second dam was a stakes winning sprinter. There's turf in this pedigree, lots of speed.
Yeah, there is. And when you look at it just on the face of it, it doesn't really look like a distance pedigree. I'm not sure how much that even matters anymore when you're talking about the Triple Crown races, at least the first 2 legs of the Triple Crown, Dan. And for more than anything else, from my perspective, just from watching this horse run, distance does not look like an issue for this guy. It looks like he handles it. His 9 furlong maiden win, he had no trouble with that as a second time starter off of only one prior start sprinting 6 furlongs. I think he stays. And I love his running style going forward. I think this horse is a little underrated.
It just appears like he's getting better and better at the right time for a master trainer, and he'll have one more start before the Kentucky Derby in either the Bluegrass at Keeneland or the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. Domestic Product wins a thrilling edition of the Tampa Bay Derby.